It is now my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Maureen Muldoon. She needs no introduction, but I'll give her one anyway. Maureen Muldoon is an international speaker, writer, storyteller, and songbird who believes in the miraculous powers of storytelling, the healing and transformation. The founder and spiritual director for Speakeasy, she helps people tell the truth so they can expand their reach, leave their mark, and honor their lives. Learn more at maureenmuldoon.com. I now give you Maureen Muldoon.
Thanks, Sherry. And hi, everyone. I see my sister Joan is here and my friend Maureen from Ireland. And so fun to see people connect. So that is creation in a nutshell, isn't it? It's the connection. I'm super excited to be talking about this topic today, creativity and the muse. I love this topic. This feels like my true church, creativity. I published my 4th book, even though I grew up with terribly debilitating dyslexia. My sisters can vouch for that. They read my diary as a kid where I wrote "ho well" instead of "oh well," and they went around teasing me. Among the many mishaps of trying to find a way to self-express. So I always had a great imagination and always kept a journal at a young age. But being a published author was something that I really never allowed myself to contemplate. And that book that I published this week was The Maiden, and it's the first in a series of 7 books. And the series is called The Maiden Voyage, which is a spiritual odyssey through the archetypes of the feminine divine. And when I say that, I'm like, wow, God makes me sound so much smarter than I am. God makes you sound so much more smarter than you are, which is such a good reason to connect with the divine and to connect with your muse. The concept that for The Maiden Voyage was not my own. It came through me from being up here on Madeline Island, where it feels like very fertile territory for creativity. I was here with Bella Gordon, who was the faithful midwife, helped me to birth this into form. So beautiful to have a tribe around you to support, to ping pong, to co-create. And that's a beautiful thing to look for as you lean into your longings and design your life for the creator that you are. And this week, I also will be releasing a song that I wrote for my grandmother that I wrote up on this island as well, funny enough. And I got to record it in Ireland with our own Olive McDonough. It's really great to be in a community of so many creators. Before I left for Ireland, actually, the other island, I produced and recorded a copy of a one-woman show that I want to say I channeled, called Transparent Love, about being the mother of a transgender child. And it's on Audible. And then on Monday, Maureen willing, I will launch the 3rd round of The Maiden Voyage. And I say Maureen willing because God is always willing, and God is always ready to create through you. Maureen, or fill in your name, can be quite reluctant sometimes and plagued by limited thinking, our own fears and reservations. I'm sure this is true for all of us. So I want to share with you a few ways that I got out from underneath myself so that I could open up to a greater degree of my creativity. Many years ago, a major thing that I did was I stopped drinking and I stopped numbing myself. I had to, or I would probably be dead. And without the anesthesia of that numbing, I had to face my own demons, my own dramas. These demons and dramas, when used in a creative way, can be a really important part of our creativity. But if we don't use them in a creative way, they can take us out. And once you start anesthetizing yourself, you begin to feel all your feelings and figure out, how to move yourself into who you're really here to be. And I went to some of those meetings that would remain anonymous, and it was very helpful. But the true umbilical cord that helped me to heal was through service and expression, service and self-expression. You might not have realized that self-expression is actually service work. Self-expression is your best service work to the world. It's your best volunteer work. And then secondly, although I was not drinking, my soul was still seeking for that high that I was looking for when I was drinking and drugging. and that high that I got from shopping and all of the other ways that I anesthetized myself, that desire for that high that came with no hangover was still something that was causing a craving in me. And so I began to seek a higher God. I know that sounds kind of corny, but that's the truth. I sought this God. I read every book I could get my hands on, as you have. I looked under every rock and I took every class, and I eventually became a spiritual practitioner. That was a very helpful thing, because that is actually plugging yourself into your creativity. And God would now be my new drug. But I was still dyslexic, so on paper it would look like dog would be my new drug. That's my dyslexic joke for you. So eventually, between my sobriety and my spirituality, I began to heal my dyslexia. And at least enough to write, and it slowly continues to be healed, along with a shit ton of other things that needed healing in my life. So seeking God never ends. It just turns into a practice and then into a devotion. And over the past 20 years, I began to work with the principles of A Course in Miracles, which many of us do here. And not just sipping it, though, but getting high on it every day, a couple of times a day. And little by little, with the help of the great grandmother, the divine, the Holy Spirit, whatever you choose to call it, that fear, that unforgiveness, that judgment, which are all blocks to creativity, began to melt like April snow. Not all at once and not all together, but it continues to melt and remove the congestion of unforgiveness. And so that all that's left is love, all that's left is creativity. And in this creativity, so many synchronicities happened. Like in this talk, I woke up the other day, I share in this talk that I woke up to the Blessed Mother, an idea of her, sharing with me the idea of letting it be. And Lou and I didn't talk before this call, and he sings the song, Let It Be. And so I just get to sit and watch the divine workings and weavings of God. Like that's what happens when we uncongest ourselves from fear. No, it's not our creativity. It's not my creativity. It's the creative energy of God. It's this liquid love that carries concepts. And if the soul agrees with the concepts, it can move those concepts into form through the creative process. And then eventually it moves it out again without making it precious or special. Because you see, form is not the goal. Form is fleeting. People say, I want to write a book. And then they tag this false goal and this false God onto the creative process, burdening it with our bidding. So don't write a book, just write, and then write, and then write. And I promise you that book will show up at your door and say, look who's here. And then it will be published, and then it will be read, and then it will be enjoyed, and then it will be used to keep the fire going at your great-great-grandson's bonfire. He will unknowingly pick up your old precious book and toss it into the fire because your stories have gone stale and your insightful ideas have gone archaic. And plus the book has already served its true purpose, which was for you to be self-expressed, for you to be self-realized. That's the big idea. And from the heavens, you will watch your great-grandson toss your precious Bible into the fires, and you'll laugh with joy. For your self-real expression will now be that you could have been assisting your great-grandson the whole time in his own creative expression of building a bonfire. I think that's kind of funny. So, and you will see from the high heavens that there's no difference in books or bonfires, that good books and good bonfires, if created in love, both deliver the same thing, a little warmth and wonder to the world. And isn't that a good goal of anything that's being created, to bring a little warmth and wonder to the world? So the real goal is to express your creative genius. And to do so, we must unburden ourselves from getting too precious with the forms. We talk about books, we talk about businesses, we talk about babies as if they're so special. They're no more special than cooking up some eggs, because all offerings, if held and delivered in reverence, are holy, with no hierarchy. You offer a genuine smile to a neighbor, you might think it's nothing, and that single simple offering could save a life. That single simple offering could save someone's life, and it seems so small. And while at the same time, all of our boring, bloated books go on boring people. So we want to really de-escalate this illusion of hierarchy. Everything is holy. Everything is holy. Sometimes something can be created through you, or sometimes something is created through me, and I might think it's special, but it happens so quickly and without fanfare, and that's when it's good, when it's easy. When it's easy, it's good. When it just flows through you, when it just flows through you and you can't stop yourself from expressing it, like a smile to your neighbor. And you might, like me, sometimes even forget that you created it. I created that show, Transparent Love, and I put it up on Audible. It took me some time to do it, and I put some money behind it. But when it was done, I completely forgot about it, to the point where Bella asked me about it the other day, and I was like, oh, yeah, that book, yeah, that story of Transparent Love, I should get that out there. And I was like, wait a minute, I think it's already out there. I think it's already out there on Audible. And it's like, oh, it's so nice to not make things precious. In the end, it's not your show. It's not my show. It's not my story. It's not your story. It's not my program. We're just the pen, as Mother Teresa says. The ink belongs to God. And so if you lay yourself open to love, the grand creator can flow through you. Now, when I share with you these creations, my ego wants to say, like, oh, you're bragging, or you should be exhausted. And here's the real money shot. I'm not bragging and I'm not exhausted. What I'm doing is channeling, and so can you. And you might think channeling is only for weirdos. I'm sorry. You talk a lot about channeling, Lou, but some people think channeling is for weirdos. You know what I mean? Like, I'm channeling. It sounds very special and weird. So I'll admit that when I say I'm channeling, it feels weird and awkward. But it sounds weird and awkward only because it's true. And if it's true, then the creative expression that we, delve into, if it's true that we're all only just channeling, then that creative expression could be so much easier. And you know who hates easy? The ego hates easy. So go on, bragging and bitching instead. That's what the ego will say. Do that bragging and bitching, but don't let yourself channel. And we judge the idea of channeling without even entertaining it. Instead, we settle for vacillating between this bragging and this, exhaustion, or being blocked. People say, I have writer's block. That's not true. You could not be blocked. Anyway, I don't subscribe to it, and you don't have to either. So these two approaches keep the ego alive. Well, when you're channeling, everything comes through you, and everything that comes through you is not held by you. It's expressed through you. Divinely lit, eternally helpful, brilliant and beautiful, to the point that you can't help but confess to the truth that putting your name on it as author or creator feels like plagiarism, because you know that it did not come from you. It came through you. It's the same way that your children are not authored or articulated by you. Kyle Gibran said it really well in The Prophet. He says, your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, they don't belong to you. This idea that Kyle shares with us is really going to crush the heart of helicopter parents. But it will also eventually set them free. Let go of your books and your babies. Let them have a life of their own and continue to create that which is beautiful and good and holy. So this is true with all of your creations. They are arrows that get shot through you. You're the bow. And as you bend to the creative inspirations of the divine, you can allow and assist the arrow of love to land and form. Much like giving birth, you receive a concept. Is this concept yours? No, it's given to you. It's not forced on you. It's just floated by you like a thought form. It's like God is flirting with you, trying to seduce you. You want to play this game? Do you want to write this song? Do you want to try out this experience? It whispers to your heart, and your heart's like, I do want to try that. And these flirtations, these invitations, these creative adventures, they float by you, and you might be like me, where you fall in love easily and you just chase 1,000 of them at all times. But maybe don't do that. Maybe you just want to take one at a time and be gentle with yourself, because you're at choice. God floats these concepts by you, but it requires consent. Isn't that nice? It requires that we consent. Yes, I would love to do this idea, or no, this idea is not for me. And the great creator, the grandmother, the muse, will bring an idea to another midwife. It will make sure that this concept gets fulfilled. It doesn't have to be yours. And then it will go on showering you with a million other concepts and ideas, hoping that one of them or two of them will woo you into willingness. All of the things that you have brought forth, you have been wooed into willingness, even though you might have been scared. I always say that, like I said before, God is willing. God is always willing. But am I? Sometimes I have to be wooed into willingness. The muse is often seen as this mystical source of inspiration, a divine force, and it drives artists and writers and creators into birthing new worlds and through their imagination. While it might seem like an external entity, the muse resides within us, waiting for that awakening, that awareness. And our sacral chakra, since we're in the chakra series of talks, the sacral chakra is a gateway to this inner muse, our desires, our motivations, what lights us up lives in that place of our being. And we get to wake up and honor our desires. Again, desires can be something that can be polluted with guilt and shame. How dare you desire that? So we have to look at our desires and take them seriously, just entertain them, let them have a cup of tea with you, at the very least. They are actually invitations from God, postcards from the future of your possibilities. So unblocking the chakra will allow us to tap into that endless flow of creativity and inspiration. And once we clear that wreckage of unforgiveness, all that's left is that expansive love that moves through you. Now, I like to say God has a million pen names, but yours is one of her favorites. And you're just the pen name of God. It can feel quite bold to suggest that you are the birthplace of God's brilliance. And so fear can abort these concepts. We block these concepts before they even get the chance to present themselves. We say, oh, no, that can't happen. And don't even wish for it. The other night we were out at a Michael Franti concert. The man is brilliant. And it was my second time seeing him. And so I got to look at the concert, not just from an audience perspective of just receiving it, but like I moved into my, my observer and my producer mind. And I thought, if this was my show, what would I perform, And I shared that with my friend Bella, and she was like, I was thinking the same thing. Well, what song would I sing? What story would I tell? So we had to move past our ego to even contemplate the idea, if this was my show. Because in the past, I'd be like, who, don't even wish for that. You're a nobody. Why contemplate a concert? I mean, who would even come to that show? That's an embarrassing thing to contemplate. So that thought, that wonder would be aborted before we even, we would deny the fantasy, but the fantasy is the heart yearning to know itself. We whack that dream right on the head by saying, I'm too old. My family would think I'm crazy. I can't because it's been done before. No, because I've navigated those very harmful hurdles of self-sabotage for years now. I started off as an actress in Los Angeles with low self-esteem, hurdling those, comparison and the illusion of lack. I don't necessarily, after many years, get too hung up on all of that. And I'm sure that maybe this is true for you as well, because there's many people in our community have also written their books and have sung their songs, which is so beautiful to be in that tribe. And I just, like you, just go on defiantly having my fantasies, despite the ego's attempt to protect me from God's brilliance. It's as simple as the word impossible being reinterpreted to I am possible. This is possible, because all things are possible because God is possible. And just, it can feel like an impossibility at first. There's a kernel of truth in it that if offered some light, it will begin to grow. And the way that we offer it light is to just bring it out a little bit, like Bella and I sharing in the car, like, if it was your show, what would you sing? It's funny to push it into word, to speak it out loud. Many people don't even allow themselves to speak it out loud, but this little action will be the thing to hold off the amputation and to hold off that illusion of I'm too old or who would care. It's already been done before. And that old voice will begin to fade. And what will rise up is, as we burn these fears in the fire, we'll hear that whisper of, yeah, it's been done before, but not by you. And if the world is nothing more than an amusement park, why not allow yourself to try out all the rides? Now, will I ever actually put on a concert of songs and stories like Michael Franti? Who knows? But it's a fantasy. It's something to contemplate, a dream. And dreams are so delightful. They light you up Would it be so bad to have more people lit up walking the world? It might creep itself into form in my own life and look completely different. My concert might look something like me singing 3 Irish songs to my family at dinner time. That can be my Michael Franti concert. But what I already mentioned is the magnitude does not define the miracle or the magic. The magnitude or the form, the size, there's no size in miracles. There's no, hierarchy in miracles. So have your dreams, try out all your options in the degree that you feel most comfortable. Like you tried on your grandmother's shoes and your sister's wedding dress, just let yourself try it on. It doesn't hurt to try things on. Trying it on helps us to know ourselves and heal ourselves and reveal ourselves. It's good. Only after trying can you actually know for sure. In 12-step, they have a saying, it's called contempt. It's a warning, rather, more than a saying. It's a warning that says contempt prior to investigation. That means like you shut it down before you even investigate. So once I tried out being a yoga teacher and I thought, this is what I want to do with my life. But after only a few months in training, I knew for sure this was not for me. I'm a yoga school dropout. And I'm okay with that because I got to scratch the itch. I got to try it on. I think I have more of ability to do this because in Hollywood, we got to try on all kinds of roles. I played a prostitute. I played a mom whose son was abducted by aliens. So trying things on was actually a part of the, career. So maybe you want to try that out. Maybe you want to try on a few things just to let yourself try them on. Sometimes you have to kiss a few frogs before you find your prince. And the investigation always gets you closer to the destination. But be aware of counterfeit creativity. In Hollywood, there was also another saying. It said, you don't want to try and play the role or the character and change yourself to become the character. That would be sort of like a version maybe of method acting, when people like try and be the character. Instead, it was like, you want to see who will the character be when you play the role. So say in a production of The Wizard of Oz, you don't want to play it like Judy Garland. You want to say, like, who is Dorothy when I play Dorothy? Is she more goth? Is she more defiant? Is she less of a pushover? And who's the Wicked Witch when I play the Wicked Witch? Is she funnier? Is she meaner? Is she less invested? Like that would be a fun way to play. But again, it's how you leave your essence on the world. I'm talking about theater, but you could take it into any area of your life. Who is the CEO when I play the CEO? Is it this rigid masculine idea I have in my mind, or is she fluid? Is she barefoot, like the barefoot Contessa? Who is the preacher when I play the preacher? Is she staunch or does she curse? Well, we know the answer here. Who is the author when you play the role of the author? I know for sure that no one will deliver the sermons that I deliver, and that it's best that I try not to be Reverend Beckwith or Joel Osteen, because even if they're more successful than me, I will never succeed at being them. Authenticity is more valuable than success. I promise you that. I promise you that for sure. So what does the song sound like when you sing it? This past summer, I had an opportunity to sing on some stages. I actually, the same stage that Michael Franti sang at when we saw his show, I got to sing on that very stage a month earlier. I got to sing an original song that I wrote. And I put myself out there and I tried out for the Big Top Idol. I mean, how ridiculous is that? I was chosen to participate. And at first I thought, oh my Lord, what have I done? I will be the geriatric candidate in here. It will be me and 20 teenagers in tube tops, belting out. And they're going to roll me out in a wheelchair. This is what the ego says to me. But here's the thing, I wasn't far off. It was me and a bunch of youngsters, So what? I showed up in my own way. I sang my own song. And it was wonderful. I have coached too many artists not to remember that your authenticity, that my authenticity holds so much magic and medicine, to not underestimate it. I don't know how many old women like myself, funny enough, I mean, I know I'm not an old woman, but an older lady, were in the audience thinking, I'm going to try out next year, and maybe something got lit within them. Could there be a better sermon than that? Could there be a better sermon than your courage on parade? I don't think so. This past summer, in the realm of doing it your way, I sang again with a few musicians on different stages. And I sang a song. One of the songs that I sang was Angel from Montgomery. And each time I suggested to play the song with these other musicians who knew how to play guitar. Well, I don't, so I needed to be accompanied. They would ask me, are you going to play it like Reba McEntire? And I was like, I have no idea what that means, but it's probably not going to come out like Reba McEntire. And I think that would be impossible for me to sing that way, and probably inappropriate for me to attempt to mimic her. And so to ensure that I stayed true to finding my way, I made a point not to listen to anyone else sing it until I performed it a couple of times, until I could hear my soul tell me how it wanted to sing it, to ensure that I was not parroting or echoing someone else's brilliance. When you light a candle, you create a shadow, but you do not want to be the shadow of someone else's creativity. You don't want to conform or twist yourself into something that's already been done. That's not creativity. Creativity requires that we step naked into the mystery, to lay ourselves open to the stylings of the divine and allow something truly new and fresh baked to come through us. That's why I love those morning calls. If you get on the morning calls with us, it's fresh baked bread every day, fresh baked bread every day. Letting something come through you is very different than letting something come from you. In the early hours of me teaching A Course in Miracles, I would come with my graphs and with my opinions and with having soaked in all of these other teachers and just parroting them, until one day I didn't have time to parrot, and I just had to let the Holy Spirit teach through me. And it was so much easier and it was so much better. That's okay. Sometimes parroting other people can be like the training wheels to your own creativity. So you don't want to judge it too much, but try not to do that. Something coming from you can only be a compilation of all the wise, pithy crumbs that you've gathered in an attempt to make an offering. Where something comes through you, no gathering is required. It sings from your pores. It kisses you on the lips. It leaves you as it swings out into the world like a swarm of dragonflies in the moonlight, and it delights and it ordains the world. And you stand the unapologetic Pandora who lifted the lid of your own brilliance and your own connection to the divine, and you're left gobsmacked like a teenager on the front stoop after her first kiss, blushing with the knowledge that your encounter can never, ever, ever be replicated. Don't you want a sip of that? We only ever prevent this type of magic from happening. We would only ever want to copy another's genius if we believed that we were not worthy to be kissed by God. If we believed that the egoic ramblings that whispered the heresy that you're not good enough is true. Here's the thing. Of yourself, you could be terrible. You could be absolutely horrible, or you could be quite good of yourself. But if you allow the muse to sing through you, you will always be brilliant. Maybe off key, maybe awkward, but brilliant, brilliant nevertheless. So let God devour you, leaving only breadcrumbs of your so-called self on her grateful lips. Let God sing through you. Let go of your notions of ownership, and instead let yourself be fully owned and opened by the divine. It's not as easy as it sounds, and definitely not as poetic as it sounds, but the ego loves to leave its fingerprints on everything, constantly keeping and grabbing credit for and recognition for its offerings. One of the ego's favorite scripts is, "Look what I did." And it's a line that uses it both to inflate and deflate. So it'll say, "Look what I did, I'm so great," or "Look what I did, I'm so terrible." In both cases, the I becomes the center of the attention, and this self-centeredness is what blocks the divine and disrupts our ability to channel. And this is where the wicked two stepsisters of bragging and exhaustion comes in. Because when it says, "Look what I did, I'm so great," it's bragging. And then, "Look what I did, I'm so terrible," is exhaustion. Jesus reveals a really impeccable truth when he says without hesitation or shame, "It's not I. It's not I, but the Father within me that does the work." Mm-hmm. So if that's true, if the Father within me is doing the work, who gets to do the play? This guy. God wants us to play. God's already doing the work. He understood the divine flow goes through us when we surrender our attachment to the outcome and we stop claiming ownership over what is ultimately a sacred sharing of creation. And when we let go of the ego's need to take credit or assign blame, we make space for a higher wisdom to guide our actions and our words and our creations. And we shift from mindsets of look at me to let it be. This is exactly what Lou already sang to us. Let it be is the state of surrender. We become clear vessels for the divine energy, allowing it to move through us unimpeded to accomplish whatever it is meant to accomplish. True channeling happens when we realize that we are not the source of the brilliance, but rather the instrument through which the divine expresses itself. And in this understanding, every act of creation becomes an offering, a way to serve. That's why I was saying self-realization, self-expression is service. It's connection. It lights the world so the divine can touch the world through us. And again, I just want to warn us all about, judging or comparison, comparing our offerings. As long as they're offered in love, they're brilliant. At first, we may look in the eyes or with the ears of judgment, and we may not see brilliance. We've been hoodwinked into thinking that glossy editorials and gold medals are the exclusive address of brilliance, but this is not so. Sure, it's beautiful to watch a man, stretch his leg like a gazelle past the finish line in slow motion, replaying like poetry, raising his arms in victory, lifting himself to the heavens. It's gorgeous to be able to see that, but equally the beauty of a baby learning to take its first step. The little one who moves less like a gazelle and more like a drunken conductor making his way down the aisles. Isn't that wonderful when we get to see that? Sure, to witness a man win a marathon is wonderful, but to watch a child take his first step, it's awe-inspiring. But isn't this equal and beautiful? Do you see the beauty in the moment of the gazelle and the moment of the drunken conductor? Art that's crafted from beauty, which is Bella Gordon's whole ministry, to walk the beauty way. That's her whole ministry. Art that's crafted from that comes real. It comes raw and it comes riveting, absolutely riveting. Art crafted in the pursuit of winning friends and influencing people comes like a well-painted whore. One makes you feel so alive and wondrous, and the other one makes you feel sad, makes you feel like you want to go take a shower. And you know the difference. And so the purpose is important. Once you say yes to the concept, you want to ensure that your agenda is only love. If you do not say this is done in only love, the delivery of it will be laborious. That's where the labor comes in. If the intentions are in love for love, it will flow into form. Does this mean that every holy delivery will be without labor, without pain? That the only ink that God likes to use is cheery, happy notes? No. We sat through Michael Fronte. His whole show was all about happiness. It was like a bubblegum wrapper. But in the very center of the show, he shared a story about his mother, about how his mom had come to see all of his shows all over the world, but the most shows she ever came to see was at the Big Top where we were at. And she came to that show and she even sang on stage with him. And then he shared with us that his mom was on the cusp of dying, and that he was so grateful to be there at this place, feeling at home while he navigated this moment. That moment was the most riveting of all. It took that bubblegum wrapper and it gave us a whole meal inside of it. So, does this mean that every holy delivery will be joyful? No, most of my songs have been created from a broken heart. Sometimes creating from anger even. I once wrote a poem called American Her Story. It came out with fire and anger and passion. It spit truth like a nail gun. It shot through me, through the cracks and crevices of my fed up heart. And I knew that even then that it was authored by love. Because when I shared that poem, it opened doors of recognition for other people who kind of sat before me in a little awe and stillness, a little space to digest these words and feelings that we as a community might have been struggling to find and speak. I just let myself be open to that. And the poem took a minute to deliver, because it came with contractions and sweat. I had to move through a few fears and filters of my own. This is not a nice poem, I thought to myself. People will not like me for saying this poem. They will think bad things of me. I might hurt someone's feelings. It was too raw and real. it felt like it had ripped a page from my diary and rolled it in rhymes. And I was like, I don't know if I'm willing to share that with the world. So when I first began to share this poem, I felt like a machine gun was pumping through me. I was moving so fast, and my audience would say, like, slow down. We can't hear you. We can't hear all of it, and we want to hear it all. But I was rushing through because I didn't want to share it. I didn't want to expose the soft belly of my being to the world. I didn't want to be that raw. I eventually did slow down. I got a hold of it. I took the reins a little bit, and I let it breathe, and I let it take up the space that it required to take up. And when I did that, it could be heard even in a more holy way. Now, this is something too that you should know about your own creations, or rather the creations that you midwife. In your self-consciousness, you might slip them out sideways. You might water them down. You might mumble through them or speed through them or introduce them with so much apology and explanation. By the time you offer them up, your audience has fallen asleep. You ever see somebody do that? Like they want to say a little poem, and before they're like, well, it's kind of bad, and I wrote it in the shower, and I don't even know if it rhymes, and it's kind of dumb, and blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like, stop. Just give us the freaking poem already. Birth the baby. Just bow your head. Just bow your head and deliver your offerings. And so finally, and I'll close with this, and I don't mean to suggest that all creations are stage worthy, because some of them are not stage worthy. Creation happens in every stage, though. In every stage of your life is an offering to the grand mosaic of God. So don't think that your offerings are only worthy if they sought stage, because you're on your stage right now. This is your audience. It could be your garden. It could be your child. It could be your dog. And don't judge the waters that flow from you. You could be a master at creating relationships or connections, or you could be a master at creating community. You could be a master artist at self-care. That's creative. You could create safe spaces for others. You could be a hummer. You could be a singer. You could be a songwriter. You could be a weaver. If you are, do you sing your songs in your kitchen to the grateful walls of your shower? Or do you just save your voice for paid occasions? Or do you sing to your shower and never, ever allow yourself to offer your moxie and your music to the world? So think about that. Think about where you're playing it safe. Let yourself share equally to everyone. Just don't die with all your music stuck in your shower. And don't die with all your stories held in your journal. Creativity is meant to be shared, or else it's turned into self-absorption. And there are creations that come with no souvenirs as well. No trinkets or treasures, no scripts or songs or statues, just the undressed act of love you create 1,000 times an hour. The one that requires no paintbrush or, leaves no indelible mark. The one that needs no grant money or financial backing, and yet they're priceless. And the byproduct of these types of actions are so holy because you didn't have that additional goal. The goal of the souvenir, the book, the baby, the business, those fine, the souvenir is fine, but it just simply says, God kissed me and I kissed him back. And I got this t-shirt to prove it. So I'm really going to end with this. In the St. Francis prayer, we don't say, make me the song. We say, make me the instrument. Make me the instrument, make me the pen, make me the paintbrush, make me the flute, make me the gong, and play through me. Who am I when God plays me? Ask yourself that. Who am I when God plays me? The Blessed Mother is the perfect example of a channel. The angels came to her with the concept of love. Will you carry this? At first she faltered. She said, I don't know. I'm not really, I don't think I have the credentials. I haven't been with a man. And the angel said, don't worry about it. Move out from under your fear. Move out from under your fear. And she did. She conceded. She gave consent. And she said, what Lou already sang to us, let it be done unto me. Imagine that. When your concepts come to you, when God kisses you on the lips, do you kiss back and say, let it be done unto me? Imagine those songs flow through you. Imagine those books that could be written through you, the soup that could be served in the soup kitchens, the sermons that could preach when God plays you. Who would we be as a community of artists and activists and everyday angels? Who could we be together when God plays us, when we let it be done unto us? It's a lot to think about. And that's the word.
Thank you, Maureen. Now we'll go to Richard for the community offering.
Hi, everybody. My name is Richard Ocean, and I'm a proud member of the Speakeasy community. Speakeasy is a non-for-profit virtual spiritual community, and we exist on the generosity of our community members. We thank you for playing your part and for taking the opportunity to make a donation for today's daily bread. Your generous donations help us bring spiritual leaders, artists, and speakers to Sunday service and keep important conversations going. As you are spiritually fed by today's conversation, I invite you to go within and see what is yours to share. No gift too small. The donation link is in the chat, as well as on our website, speakeasyspiritualcommunity.com. Thank you for letting me be of service.
Maureen, that was very stirring and lots of things popped up in my mind. But now, everyone, it's time for the truly unique experience of Speakeasy, the Sunday service. We call it our community conversation. This is where we invite you to speak easily, find your voice and your truth, and share your thoughts, inspirations, awareness, and your questions with the community. Maureen, you struck me with many, many thoughts, but one that I circled was, who will the character be when I play the role? I think that is so important because when you have an idea, and I love how you pointed out that our ideas come from God. When you have an idea, one of the first things that ego will throw at you is not you.
Yeah.
And then the next one will be, but it's already been done.
Yeah.
So if you can just remember that however it has been done, you will do it differently, then that could spur you past that point of not even trying it on, as you talked about.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's funny because I was in Hollywood for many years, over 2 decades, and I didn't know that saying until recently. My husband shared it with me. He's like, remember in Hollywood when they used to say, like, who would you be? Who would the role be when you? And I was like, oh, I never heard that before. Like, I would have had a totally different career. I would have saved myself so much energy. So yeah, take that to your heart, and play with it. Who would you be in? Who would the clay be in your hands? You know, what would the painting be with your paint? Like, that's a good question. It invites us into playing, and it's interesting to be reminded that Jesus said, be like little children. Children play. They don't work. No, they don't go off to work. They go off to play. And they are such great teachers because they also affirm for us that they are cared for. This idea of receiving is the thing that can block a lot of creativity, because we take all of our creativity and we give it over to, consumerism. Whereas just like to create, you might hear yourself thinking, I don't have time to create. But you sure have time to consume a whole bunch of bullshit on Facebook. So you probably have some time. I know I do. I have more time to create.
Yeah, that I thought about how creativity is not nurtured within us. Because think of in a history class, if the teacher said, everybody go home and read about the War of 1812, and everybody give you your interpretation of how it happened, why it happened, and what you think would happen next. And how it would spur the creativity in the kids versus everybody's to turn in the same report with the same bullet points, you know?
I love that idea.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
So we're not even taught to try to create as in our current way of teaching. And I love your let it come through you, not from you. Because if you get an idea, it is your idea, and it is an idea from God. That's why you got it. And that's
Yes.
why I don't get the idea about flying a plane or being an astronaut, but you
Yes.
do.
Yes.
Because you get the idea that fits you and suits you.
Yes.
And if we only, understood that if you have an idea, it is for you. It's not for someone else.
Yeah. although what's her name, Gilbert, says like there have been times when she has negated an idea and she's watched another writer get the same idea. Now that other writer is never going to write the book that Elizabeth Gilbert could have written, but
No.
you know, so but the ones you say yes to, they're totally your ideas. And
Yes.
you know, when I was in Hollywood, I remember I had this idea to write this show called Booby Trap, the very breast show in town, which was about women's experience with their breasts. And this was, oh my God, like 15 years ago. And I remember at the time thinking, I better hurry up and write this because someone else is going to get this great idea. 15 years later, nobody has this dumb idea of writing a play about women's experience with the breast. It raised a lot of money for breast cancer and it did a lot of good in the world, but it's not like it was like, you know what I mean? Like the ones that are a true yes for you are yours to deliver in the same way that nobody could deliver your sons and daughters. It's
Yeah.
impossible.
I also underlined I love the way you said that God is flirting with you when he's giving you ideas, and are you going to flirt back? And that's exactly, that's a very good explanation of how it happens. You get an idea, and it is like a flirtation, and you get to simmer and sit with it and make a decision about, are you going to flirt back? The guy winked from across the room, are you going to wink back or not? And if you choose not, then you'll never know what could have happened. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And sometimes, you know, I think what happens is sometimes we're so shy around God flirting with us, you know, just like we'd be shy around like Brad Pitt flirting with us. It's like, oh my God, is he looking at me? Like, that can't be weird. This is weird. Like, you just think my husband's not on today, so I can talk about other men. But I would say even with my husband, when my husband and I first started dating, he was so nice to me and I used to swat him. I'd be like, stop it. Like, this is not for me. Like, go away. Like, you don't know the crazy that lives here. So you kind of have to like be your own champion. When I first started acting, I remember I said to my sister, when I tell, you know, I was waitressing tables and I said to her, when I tell people that I'm waiting on, when they say, what do you want to do with your life? Because I was very young. And I would say, I'm going to be an actress. They would just be like, oh God, okay, good luck. So sad. And I told my sister Mary, and she was like, well, you have to stop saying you're going to be an actress. You have to start telling them that you are an actress. And I was like, but I'm not. And she was like, well, just do it anyhow. She was so interesting. I don't think my sister ever read a book about manifesting or anything like that, but she just knew things. So I went back to the tables, and when they asked, I said, I'm an actress. And the next, they didn't, of course, smirk anymore. Instead, they asked me, what can we see you in? And I was like, oh, shit. I better go take some class or something. I signed up for the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. I got accepted for the summer program. They invited me back for the full ride. But if I were to stay at the academy, I would not be allowed to audition for roles. And during that summer, I'd gotten an agent by some miracle because I was willing to put myself out there. It's not a miracle. It's the Muse stringing things together for you. And by the end of the summer, I had booked my first national commercial. I was being paid as a professional artist in my craft. That happened so quickly because I was willing. Then, you know, after that, I hung around with a lot of other actors who told me this business is really hard. I came in with beginner's luck. I was like, okay, I'll get an agent. Okay, I'll go on an audition. I guess I'll book a job. I had no kind of like knowing of the industry. And so when I sat around all those actors on the job, the commercial job, and I soaked in all of their false ideas. This is hard. This is hard. I was like, oh yeah, this is hard. I didn't book a job for another year and a half. I had to unprogram myself. You know, I had to unprogram myself from believing it was hard. So it really is interesting when you look at your own creative journey. It would be fun maybe this week. Last week, I invited everyone to go out and meditate under a tree, which Bella and I did. High five. We did meditate under a tree. It was awesome. This week, I would invite you to take a little time to write out your own creative journey. It might show you some things. It might show you some blocks and some patterns that are preventing you from being on point.
Whenever I decide to write a book, the first thing I do is do the title page that opens when you open the book. Is I go ahead and put the name of the book and put by Sherry or Sherry B. Ransom, put my tagline, I do it all that, and I keep that in front of me, which helps me make it real and not forget it and not run away from it. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, out of sight is out of mind. So if you don't put it right up there in front of you, life can just, encroach upon our creativity and keep
Yeah.
us doing tasks.
Yeah.
So in that way, I think vision boards are kind of cool. On my own vision board, I have a specific picture for this project that I'm working on. And sometimes I forget to look up at it, but every time I look up at it, I go, oh, can't wait for that to happen. It's good. And it
Yeah.
helps me to feed that fire of longing and desire within me, and not in a, in a way, like, again, and to always say, like, if it's most helpful to the world. Like that, of course, at this point, we've all done so much spiritual work. It's not like we're going to be out there like trying to, win friends and influence people, but rather like, let this be a holy offering to the world. You can trust yourself with that. And now,
True.
Yeah.
That's so true. That's true. You just give it to the world because you don't know when it will catch on. I always remember that the book The Shack, it had been out for years before it just clicked with people to start buying it. 3+ years, 4 years before it
Really?
started to click. So you don't just do the work and you don't know when it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I have one final question for you that I circled. Um, Form is not the goal. I love that. I had never heard that before, and that is absolutely stunning to realize that don't put your focus on how it's going to turn out all the time. Just do the work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just show up one step at a time.
Yeah.
And the form follows consciousness. So if you're holding this idea, if you're stroking this idea, if you're, stirring the pot of this idea, it will
Right.
come to fruition at its time.
Yes, I just wanted to stir the soup with everyone here. I mean, Maureen, my goodness, it's such an inspiration to dive down these stories with you and to unravel all this, and just, that creativity is a sacred, thing, and we're transformed just by the effort of it. And of course, I loved that "Let It Be," which was the last thing on my mind when I woke up this morning to sing. Found its way into this, and it meant something, special
Yeah.
to you. And the story about Michael Ferrante and his mom, was clearly so deeply moving to you. And thank you for sharing that with us. Yeah, we want to touch each other,
Hmm.
and creativity, allows us to do that. For me, music is just this magical, gift that immediately puts us in another reality, and we're all along for this ride together. So, I just want to say, yay, team! It's just such a delight and a pleasure to be a part of, this enlightened group, and I'm just so grateful here. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Lou, because this is, Sunday after Sunday after Sunday, this is how it works. God kisses me with a concept. I kiss God back with a sermon, and God kisses me with a song from the musician who's echoing the exact idea. Like, it always happens. And I go, and that gives me faith. Gives me
Me
faith.
too. Me too. Thank you, hon. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I think that the ego hates easy. It's so good for me to remember. And there's no such thing as writer's block. Just set the pad down or the computer and just start writing. And it was my experience when I wrote my memoir. It was the only thing I could get myself to do at the time. And everyone was looking at me like, go get a job, do something. And this was really the only thing that called to my heart. And for years, I had spent 50 years not listening to my heart. So finally, and I just kept writing and writing and writing. And luckily, I had chosen a structure. I just put it was backstory of memoir. And then in another lifetime, I had run 100-mile race. And also too, it was a race that I had finished. So in my writing, in choosing to write about finishing this race, I couldn't stop because the miracle happened at the this extraordinary miracle occurred at the very end of the race. And so it was like my metaphor right there of you can't quit writing. This is in your heart. And I'm just here to really tell everyone the healing that can come through writing is unbelievable. Like, I wanted to move forward in my life. It was my greatest thing. This had been a 30-year marriage. And to the person I thought was going to be my best friend, who I loved dearly, and to be able to forgive and write healed. And I could finally be in the present moving forward.
Absolutely. Preach, preach, preach. And, you know, I haven't read your book yet, but it's on my list of books to read. But I do know the people who have read your book love it. And I love that you use that running thing, you know, that's really beautiful. Yeah. You know, in regards to writer's block, you know, children don't get writer's block. You know what I mean? Like, they just don't. So it's just, it's just not, you don't have to accept it.
There we go. I'm in the car. I just want to just a shout out to you, Maureen, that you said that no one speaks sermons or gives messages, sing songs or story tells like you. And I just want to say that no one resonates with me like you. And I always tell my children, you know, I wish you could see yourself through my eyes. And you know, I wish I could see myself through your eyes. You know, I just want to say that. And you know, you resonate so much with me. You really, really do. You always touch my heart, and you always make me believe in myself through a sermon, through a chat, through morning classes, through everything. So I just want to say that. And you know, I think I told you I was gonna sign up for the maiden voyage. Well, I kind of was talking myself out of it these past 2 weeks, and I just want to say, after listening to your sermon, amen, I'll be registering after this call. So thank you, and I love you so much.
Oh, good. That'll be so fun to travel the 7 weeks with you. Oh, good, good, good. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's mutual, you know, it's all mutual. And you know, getting to walk each other home is just that's what it's all about, you know. Yeah. Thank you.
When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be.